and welcome to the Divorced Women's Guide podcast, where we talk about the things us divorcees are thinking, but not always talking about, as we turn our divorce into the best gift we've ever been given. And I do so with a little bit of sass and a whole lot of class. I am your host, Wendy Sterling, founder of the Divorce Rehab. I am here to support you in this transition phase of your life so you can start your new best chapter on your own terms. After all, that's what I did after my own divorce. And now it is my mission to change the conversation around divorce and help you see why your divorce, like mine, was the best gift you ever received. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Divorced Women's Guide podcast. I am so happy that you guys have tuned in today because I am here with my friend and colleague, Pamela Savino. Hello, Pamela. How are you?
I'm great, Wendy. How are you doing?
I'm so great. I am so excited for you to be here today because we are talking about one of my own personal favorite topics as it relates to divorce, and that has to do with how spirituality helps us to heal through our divorce processes. And I know that it's something that was impactful for you. It is something that has definitely been very impactful for me. And so before we dive into our conversation, I want to share a little bit about you with our audience today. So Pamela is pursuing her spiritual calling with an unparalleled fervor. She relentlessly helps others find their voice, speak their truth, and live authentically via several modalities. She is the founder of Live Authentically, a life coaching business, author of SOAR, and she recently started a podcast called The Live Authentically Show, whose guests include other people who are committed to playing a role in raising collective consciousness and helping people discover the essence of who they are. She is also an advocate for plant-based eating and partners with others to spread the plant-based message internationally. Her wish for everybody in this world is that we all live deeply fulfilling and authentic lives. And achieving this goal often requires radical change, and she's vowing to embody, embrace, and model this change to inspire others to find their own voice and leave this world a better place than we found it. And I could not agree with you more. Our messages are so parallel, which I think is a big reason why we tend to gravitate towards one another as well. So again, I'm so happy to have you here. And, you know, you have made so many incredible changes in the world with the clients that you work with. And the way in which you've been able to do that is through your own journey. So before we dive in, I would love for you to share with our audience today a little bit more about you and your journey and what led you on one that was spiritual in nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I'll do is I'll rewind a bit and start and kind of give you a little bit of background. So I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I was super focused on, on choosing a career that utilized my strengths, et cetera. So I kind of started down that, call it that like checklist that I felt like I should be on. I felt like I should be going to college. I started dating someone in college. We ended up getting married soon thereafter. Spent my 20s working in corporate America. I was kind of going down that checklist. Like, I think I'm doing all the right things, checking the boxes. So got married, a family, got a house, built a bigger house, kind of went down that list. And in my 30s, so I started having kids in our late 20s. And then I stopped working in my late 20s to be home with the kids full time. And I had 4 children, and in addition to that, 2 pregnancy losses that were deeply moving and really the start of my spiritual journey. But my 30s really were spent taking care of the house and kids as a full-time mom. And then, I have to say, in my 30s, life was challenging. I'm not going to lie. I used to joke that getting out of my sweatpants before noon on any given day felt like a huge accomplishment.
Like when you have a baby, it's like just taking a shower was like a big deal, right?
Exactly. And I really have to say kind of that disconnection started then, kind of like the cracks in the foundation, disconnection with my husband, disconnection with myself. I was much living in fire drill mode, reaction mode, felt like I was doing the right things, but wasn't prioritizing myself, wasn't really taking care of myself. My joke is that I look like, I would have been a good candidate for those makeover shows where they're like, okay, well, we'd like to work with her. She's running around in sweatpants, hair in a ponytail, no makeup every day. Again, no judgments. I still do that sometimes, but my point is that I always put myself last. So I was never filling out my own picture. Just call a spade a spade. I wasn't stepping out of the marriage, but I wasn't really prioritizing the primary relationship, the marriage. I didn't realize that I was just doing my best as a mom and, as taking care, someone taking care of the house.
Right.
And, we started to diverge. My husband and I started to diverge. He was working a super high powered career in corporate America. And I felt like pretty isolated, to be honest with you. I mean, as much as I am grateful for the opportunity to stay home with my kids and, I no longer could identify with my career. I was very much in the throes of motherhood. And I really didn't have an identity outside of being a mom. I remember at one point on my journey, one of my friends she said at one point, she's like, Pam, get out of the kitchen. Like take a little break from like baking and cooking, like get out, like do stuff. And, and I kind of, I would think every time, she would say that. And we ended up in marriage counseling in our early 40s. And it became pretty apparent pretty early on that we had grown apart over the years. We didn't realize it, but that disparity, which was probably pretty small in the beginning, grew over time as we were in the throes of taking care of, all things related to house, kids, careers, etc. So we embarked on the path of divorce in March of 2017. And it was very much a transformative experience because I knew that this divorce could take any number of paths. I mean, I had sort of had a stigma in my mind associated with divorce, that it was an end, it was a failure, it was a defeat. I did resist it. We were trying to, for years actually, I had thought about it, but, that idea of going down that path was daunting, right? There was fears associated with it, unknowns, uncertainty. And I just kept getting pulled back to comfort and familiarity, thinking, oh, it'll be easier when I was kind of tricking myself, right? It'll just be easier. I was kind of kicking the can. It'll be easier when the kids get older or when we're not running everybody around to activities all the time. But, the reality of it was I wasn't willing to go vulnerable and be transparent and just really face the music and say, you know what, I'm not sure that this is the right romantic relationship for us to be in anymore. It made sense for a while, but a part of that reframing though, part of make that shift from viewing divorce in one light and totally changing gears and viewing it in the spiritual sense was that, I needed to reframe the experience. I needed to reframe it through spiritual lenses and start asking myself questions like, what can I learn from this? How did this period of time serve me? What purpose was this in my evolution? And so I had to dig really, really deep to kind of shift out of that mode of, how society conditions us to view divorce into that mode of really embracing it and understanding that life is happening for me, not to me.
Exactly. And I say that all the time. I say that my divorce happened for me, not to me. And it was the best gift I ever gave myself, because it was that awakening that I needed to start living my life for myself. And I know so many people who are listening can relate to your story. And, I know that I can, right? Because I was on autopilot for so long and completely lost myself, forgot who I was, didn't know what my voice sounded like outside of my role, right, in the home. And, divorce really was that catalyst to wake me up. And I know that it was very similar for you. So talk to us a little bit about from then on what your journey and your experience was like. How did you start transitioning? Because it's not easy, right? It's not easy to go from victim into owner mode, right? Mindset, getting out of victim mentality. So talk to us a little bit about how your divorce kind of awakened you and what that process was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I made a shift pretty early on. I knew I needed to step out of fear and into faith. I needed to just trust. I was stepping into a whole new world. The world that I had known for the prior almost 20 years looked completely different than what I was going to be stepping into. So I just had to trust. I had to shift. I had to move into a place of surrender. And I just made a conscious decision one day. I said, this feels right to me, even though there's fears associated with it. There's unknown, there's uncertainty. There's a whole range of emotions. This just feels like the right step on my journey. So I just trusted, I just showed up every day and just trusted that the right people and the right experiences would be put in my path. But, that's the humanity, right? That's kind of those emotions kind of highlight our ego and
Mhm.
cause us to dig really deep and do that soul work and get to a place of empathy and compassion and forgiveness and acceptance and all of those things that release us. So a big part of what I had to do too was letting go of the past, right? Of letting go, not looking back, but realizing that this time that we spent together was very much a foundational piece on my spiritual journey. And it helped to craft me into a better version of myself. And from that point, then everything, once I decided to take that leap of faith, I mean, that was really the pivotal moment when I said, you know what, I'm not going to be in fear mode. I'm going to do this. And, we had people sort of, chiming in with a little bit, some commentary or,
Sure.
input that was unsolicited. Did you think about the kids? And are you sure this is the right thing to do? We had looked at it from many different angles. And, we just said, you know what, we've got this. Just support the kids, just give your love to the kids and support us. We've got this. And, it was amazing how when you set the tone of harmoniousness, that we're not going to be, infused with separatism and contentiousness, that we can design this to look any way we want to, people really do follow. So I felt like we really kind of, we sort of retemplated. I really wanted to do that, like retemplate the way that divorce looks. So I just was kind of, off and running, and it's just opened my world up to things I couldn't have even imagined. I mean, 3 years ago, if someone would have told me today that this is what my life would have looked like, I would have never believed them. But once I decided to make that shift and just keep showing up every day, again, the right people and experiences just were put on my path.
Yeah. It's amazing how I love that word surrender. It's a very big word for me. Um, for me, it started back at the Wizard of Oz, where the Wicked Witch, right, puts on the sky, like surrender Dorothy. And I remember as a kid, I always used to think that that meant like give up, right? Give yourself up. And after my divorce, that whole scene is so different to me. And I talk about it a lot. And I love that you brought that word into our conversation because, surrender truly means trusting that you have what you need to navigate your path. Like, you've always had it, right? There's the line that, the good witch says at the end, like, you've always had the power, you just had to find it within yourself. And at the end of the day, that really truly is what surrender means. And surrender is such a big piece in the divorce process, which I agree with you, that's where faith comes in, and trusting that higher power, that your path is you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're on your path, and there's so many beautiful things awaiting you, which I know none of us understand or can see at the time. But what was that pivotal moment for you, when you identified, like when you truly, like, I know what my moment was when I finally surrendered. What was that moment like for you?
So I can kind of color that in for you. We
Yeah.
were in marriage counseling for about 6 months, and I was still in fear mode. I was still like, you know what? I think there's going to be some other things we can try. But I ended up receiving a text message from my then husband who, it wasn't intended for me. Let's just say that. So it was on that night that I decided, you know what? This is the message from the universe. And in fact, the universe had been giving me this message. It had been teeing up that I was going to get this message for 3 years. I had been seeing the code 1118. I talk about that in my book, and I didn't know what it meant. I went to see a spiritualist, and she said, on March 8th, you're going to get a sign. And I was like, what do I need to do? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to sit quietly? How do I receive the sign? And she said, just do your thing. The sign will come. And boom, like the sign came. I was brazen at that point. I just kind of, you know what, we're going to just call this out on the carpet. We're going to just call it what it is. And it was really that night that I said, you know what, we need to take a different path. We've tried. I felt like we did give it the old college try. it felt like, just too little, too late. We were trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to jump. I'm just going to jump off the airplane, and I'm just going to trust that my parachute is going to open. So
Yeah.
that's what that moment was for me. It was full trust. I mean, I felt it. I mean, I felt this infusion of universal energy, and the universe was like, all right, let's go. We're doing this. And I just felt like I was completely surrounded by angels, spirit guides, ancestors, ascended masters, everybody. I just felt this complete divine presence.
Mm-hmm.
And it truly felt amazing. I mean, here I was, and standing at the very forefront of of a string of months or years of uncertainty, not knowing what that looks like, right? Not knowing what that path looks like. But I so firmly trusted, and I just knew the path would be illuminated when it needed to be. I didn't need to see 3 years in the future. I needed to show up and trust that the universe always has my highest good in mind in every moment. The
Yeah.
universe is always seeing things I'm not seeing, hearing conversations I'm not hearing. And even though sometimes, as humans, we want to strongly influence our situations, we really do have to sit back and trust and remember that the universe always has our highest good in mind. And that may or may not be what we want for ourselves.
Hey, it's Wendy here. I wanted to take a quick break from the conversation to let you know about another free event I'm hosting on Tuesday, September 29th about divorce and narcissism. If you're somebody who is divorcing a narcissist or someone with narcissistic characteristics, this is something you don't want to miss. You will learn what you need to know before you divorce a narcissist, how to successfully negotiate with one, learn financial hacks, how to set boundaries and co-parent with a narcissist, and so much more. The event is free and it's live, and all you have to do is register today by visiting divorceandnarcissism.com. Again, the event is live on Tuesday, September 29th, so block your calendar today. And now let's jump back into the conversation. And you bring up two really important points that I was going to ask you to touch on, which are first and foremost is, I hear so many times people saying like, I'm waiting. Why am I not receiving anything? And a lot of times I'll say like, it's because you're still on your path, right? I see numbers in sequential order, and I also have an animal that is like my spiritual guide, that when I see my animal, I know I'm on my path. So part of that too is your own personal transformation of going from, believing what is up here, right? Moving from head into heart. And so what was that transformative process like for you to really, again, surrender yourself to that path, but also trusting that even though you may not have received your sign, right, when you wanted it, A-type personality right here, like what was that? How did you sort of bring yourself back to like, okay, it's okay that you haven't seen it yet. It means that you're still working through this. Like what was that process for you?
I love, love, love that you asked this, because whenever I hear the word wait, or whenever I would use the word wait, I really forced myself to dig deep, and I really then reframed it and anchored on patience. So waiting is very much a head-based concept. It's like, I'm waiting, I'm sitting here, I'm on the edge of my seat. When is this going to happen? It casts a different vibe. Energetically speaking, waiting is very, very different than patience.
Yes.
Waiting casts a very desperate energy into the universe, which actually creates resistance, and it makes it harder for us to call into our reality, harder for us to receive and allow what is meant for us. Patience asks us to just relax. Patience asks us to just sit back and trust and let the universe do the driving. So I really had to just sit back and trust that everything was going to come to me at the moment that I needed it. There's this grand, amazing divine plan behind everything that happens. This physical world is it's what we see on the surface, but underneath it all is really this divinely orchestrated plan. And so we just have to sit back and allow the universe to do its thing. We don't have to know the how. All we need to do is just show up. We need to just show up as our authentic selves, open mind, open hearts every single day, and just trust. I mean, the universe is amazing. I mean, you know that. I've seen it, I've experienced it. It will move mountains to make sure that we have the experiences that we're supposed to have, meet the people that we're supposed to meet. And we really don't have to do anything other than, like I said, sit back and relax and just flow with it, right? Just flow
Yeah.
with the direction life is taking us rather than resist. When we resist, when we are waiting, that's again a very different vibe energetically than if we just sit back and do our best every single day and allow the universe to do the driving.
Yeah, and what's coming up for me as you're talking about that is something that I think a lot of people also struggle with, that this helps them understand, which is staying present,
Yeah,
right? And when you shift from the weight game into patience, it also allows you to be more present in your life with your kids, with the experiences that come your way, instead of always, taking yourself out of the present moment. So
right.
how has that helped you both in your business and then also as a mom of four?
Yeah, great question. I really learned how to be present for the first time during the divorce process. So there were times when I just had to anchor on what's in front of me here today. What can I appreciate in this moment? And it's really helped me. It has completely transformed the way that I live. I mean, I now feel like I experience so much more depth
Mm.
and emotion and just everything because I soak up every moment. I see, how fleeting every moment is. And there is no other moment in our in our lifetime, in our lifespan that will be exactly like it is today. This is the only chance we have to enjoy our kids at the ages that they are and, experience our life, experience the people in our lives, the way that they are. People obviously move
Yeah.
away, transition, change happens every single day. And that's what really helps me to stay present is just to understand that life is ever changing, and I'm here to soak up. I mean, really just try to soak up the goodness and the amazingness in every single moment every day, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, and I think that is so beautifully exhibited through, your business, right? Live authentically, which is what you embody. You are, the example of, to everybody out there. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about sort of what the inspiration was behind that, and share a little bit more about your program.
Of course. So, I founded my business. I decided to name it Live Authentically. And the mantra that kept coming to me during the divorce process, as I was contemplating my purpose, my calling, my next chapter, was find your voice, speak your truth, live authentically. It's like my guides were like whispering
Hmm.
it in my ear every day. And, I just feel like, authenticity, from that place of authenticity, is where we can hook into our true power. It's where we can truly connect with the universe and open ourselves up to the abundance and the amazingness that the universe has to offer. And I'm convinced that's the only place that you can really tap into that. And so I decided to name my business Live Authentically, and everything that I do embodies that energy. So I founded my business. I started a podcast called The Live Authentically Show. My book is about authenticity, spirituality, all of that. So everything that I do is very much around that concept. And really that is about as far reaching, it's about as broad as it could be. I mean, I can have a discussion with anybody in this world about the idea of living authentically and helping them align to that place.
Yeah, because I believe that when you do that, you are living a life of true fulfillment. That when you are completely aligned with who you know yourself to be, the essence of your being is really when, just like you say, like you're the title of your book, that's when you soar in your life. And it has been such a pleasure to have you on today. Before we sign off, I would love for you to share, for somebody who's tuning in today, what are some words of wisdom that you would like to leave with our audience today, regardless of where they are in their process? What is some wisdom that you wish someone had told you when you were going through this process?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say the most important, the words of wisdom, the most powerful words of wisdom I can come up with are really just to tap into your higher self. I mean, we're so much more than our physical bodies, and that's what got me through this process. Just continually anchoring on spirituality, connection, right? Connecting to my higher self, trusting that the universe has your back. The universe always has your highest good in mind. And if you just, again, keep showing up every single day with an open mind and open heart, the universe will carry you to that place.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I didn't understand what that meant back in the day. And it's something that I have increasingly started tapping into. And it's incredibly powerful when you allow yourself, right? You surrender to what that process and what that feels like. And your higher self, I always say, always knows what's best for you. That inner wisdom who guides you, keeps you on your path, is something that you get to check in with and know that you are making decisions in your best interest and for the interest of your kids. So that's beautiful. Everybody needs to take that wisdom and remember that, because it's so important when you're going through the trauma of divorce and mourning the process. So Pamela, I also know that you have a really generous gift for our audience today. So I would love for you to share a little bit with our audience about your leave behind.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a guide that that we can go ahead and make available to them that will help them step more into their authenticity.
Yeah. And you guys, this is something that if you tuned into my summit where Pamela was a guest, it was a guide that she had provided. It is amazing. It gives you 5 powerful ways that you get to start embracing your more authentic self. So you guys will definitely want to check that out in the show notes. I will have the link there. How else can people find you, Pamela?
They can email me directly at pamela@liveauthenticallytoday.com or check out my website. I'm at liveauthentically.today. Excuse me. And I also have a Facebook group. You can find me at liveauthentically.today/FB.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today. It's lovely to see you.
Yeah, lovely to see you as well. It's been such an honor. I adore you and all the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing work that you're putting out in this world. So thank you. I'm delighted our paths crossed. Again, Facebook magic, someone made a connection. And again, here we are.
I know, and I love it. And I adore your friendship. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life and in my world, and to have you as also somebody that I get to help, spread your kindness and your love in the world. It's so important. And your journey, most importantly, I feel like we're, kindred spirits, and how our divorces have really guided us into this, new path that both of us are taking in our lives, and really truly giving back into the world. And I adore you, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And, I've been featured on your own podcast too. So thank you for that. And everybody listening, Pamela, thank you again.
Thank you, Wendy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. And everybody tuning in today, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I hope that there were multiple nuggets of information that you guys gathered that helps you navigate wherever it is that you are in your divorce process just a little bit more easily. I know I learned a lot today, and have a couple of mental notes that I'm going to write down after this episode that were really important to me. So I hope that you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you guys on next week's episode. Sending you all lots of love, light, and joy. Mwah. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this episode with someone you know, or spread the word on social media. This is how I reach more divorcees around the world and provide them with the support they need to create their next best life. And I would also love to continue the conversation with you. So please friend me on Facebook, join my private Facebook group, The Divorce Rehab, and follow me on Instagram at Divorce Rehab with Wendy. I'll see you next time.